If I get your attention, please. Thank you all for coming. My name is Pat Bosco, Vice President, Dean at K-State. I'm going to retire, if you haven't read it anywhere, July 1st. And I appreciate all of you coming together and helping us look at different ways we can drive student success on our campus. It's critically important that we look at what we're doing critically across the academy as we think in terms of what makes K-State a very special place. Yes, we're enjoying record numbers of, when you think about our placement rates at 96%, our freshman to sophomore retention rates, all-time high, best in the state. You've really driven the needle on graduation rates, both 4-year and 6-year graduation rates. I remember speaking to a group, Provost, a couple of years ago, stating that I was embarrassed by our 4-year graduation rates at our school. Over the last several years, we've made significant progress with all of your efforts and with our partners in the academic community of improving our 4-year and our 6-year graduation rate. Our 6-year graduation rate right now is the highest in the state of Kansas by a smidgen, more than any other school in the state. Anytime I say more than any other school in the state, you know what school I'm talking about. Everybody know that. We're here, I look around this room, and I know it's awkward for some of you. I hired, or a chance to promote, almost all of you at one time or another. I have tremendous confidence in what each and every one of you bring to the table. We've always had a singular interest at our school, what's best for K-State. And it's very natural for us to work through a process of how best can we provide more focus in terms of undergraduate and graduate instruction at our school. We've got a great partner in Provost Tabor. He understands higher education and enrollment management, and our ability to retain and recruit students. Things are not going to change here in terms of our culture. We care about retention, and that drives recruitment. It always has, and it always will. We're joined by student life and academic administrators who couldn't join us by our broadcast today, so we'll take questions for them as well. I know it's a very busy day on the campus. We've got 350 middle schoolers next door. Emily's hosting. We have a lot of activities and programs going on today, plus a big game tonight that's very important to some of us as we work through the process. We have some charts, we have some tables that Lynn Carlin and Emily Lenny put together for us to respond to. This is an opportunity for you to ask questions, particularly those questions that haven't been asked. Our goal is to be able to give you as much information as we possibly can about what things will look like July 1, but also a process that will go between here and there to make sure that we're doing everything we can to involve you as best we can in the restructuring, as well as our ability to provide focus to student success. Provost?
So I'm Chuck Tabor, I'm the Provost. I first want to say how much I appreciate the partnership that I've had with Pat. He has given me a crash course in K-State culture, and that's been absolutely invaluable to me to understand the university and its really unique relationship with students and with the community. And I'm just so happy to be here. I want to thank all of you for being here for this event today. This is really important to us. This is a big change. It's a big change for the university. And I know it affects all of you. We have here collected many of the staff people in student life and in the provost's office. And these are changes that will affect you. And so we understand how there's a lot of uncertainty, there's a lot of questions that you have, and we really want to get a chance to answer those questions, hear from you. There are questions we don't have answers to yet. And there are issues going forward that we don't yet know the best path. And so there's also an opportunity for your participation, for you to give us ideas. We've gotten some great ideas already, but we're going to continue to collect those ideas from you as we go forward. I do want to go through a few quick slides, and then we'll get to really a conversation that Pat and I will both be having with you. But what we want to do today is first give you an update on where we are in the transition process. This is a big a big structural change for the university. So where are we in that transition planning? There's a lot of work that goes into that transition planning. We want to hear from you about what's on your minds. And we want to really talk about how we can all contribute to this joint mission that we have that has to be a partnership between student life and the academic sector to promote student success. I mean, that's why we're all here, is to promote student success. And that can't happen without a strong partnership between the academic side and student life. Okay, seem to have a delay here. Okay, so this is the overall structural framework, and I know you can't read all what's in these boxes. I'll quickly go over it, but this is now online. A brand new website just went live today that explains this sort of first phase. I'll talk about the phases we're going through. But very briefly, we're creating 3 new positions in the Provost area that will handle the academic side of this partnership. Okay, none of these 3 positions are actually new positions. I do want you to understand that I did hold 3 positions vacant when I arrived, and we're repurposing those positions to bring in these new people. We're going to have a vice provost for student success. Okay, and this is going to collect together some of the work that's been going on in student life to promote academic student success and some of the work that's been going on in the area of undergraduate studies within the provost office. So this will collect together the units of people that worked on student success from the academic side, the academic point of view. Okay. We're going to have a vice provost for enrollment management, and that's going to collect the people who are involved in recruitment, the admissions processes, registrar's office, financial assistance. Those will all be under the vice provost for enrollment management. And we're also adding, because data is so important to everything we do, an associate provost for institutional research. So this is a person whose primary job will be to lead us in terms of the data collection, the data warehousing, and the analytic capacity that we need in order to make good decisions in these areas. Now, on student life, you can see we have pretty much all of the functions that support student success as students outside of the academic side. Okay, so that we have a clean division of labor, if you will, between the academic mission and the support of students in their life while they're here. Okay. So we're thinking about this. We're approaching this in 2 phases. There's a lot going on here. So we want to spend a first phase, which is basically this spring through June, in which we make the broad changes that we saw in the last chart. Okay, so we'll be moving offices. We'll be creating new reporting structures. We'll be doing a forensic dive into budgets. We'll be figuring out space. We're going to be doing all of that in this first phase this spring. Okay. We will simultaneously be conducting the searches, and I think you probably saw the announcement of the search committees. So that process is already underway, and the goal is to have those new folks. And in addition, not that we can ever replace Pat, but the replacement, the vice president for student life, will also be, the searches will be ongoing this spring. So we should have these 4 critical partners here on campus. And it's, of course, possible that we will have internal candidates for these positions. So when I say new positions, I'm not necessarily meaning new people, but it may people in these new positions will be filling those 4 positions to work together to continue into a second phase when we'll have additional organizational realignments that we don't know yet what those might be. Okay, so there will probably be a second phase after new folks are in these positions. And we have their leadership to help us think through whether we are properly organized. Okay? So in order to do this big job, we created a small transition team under the leadership of Emily Lenning and Lynn Carlin. Okay, and they've come together to work out really the three big parts of this shift. That is staff transition planning, budgetary planning, space planning. Okay, and so they're working really hard on those issues. We have listed here the folks that are working with them: Mandy Cole, Ashley Martin, Heather Mills, Marcia Horning. We also have started monthly joint student life provost staff leadership meetings. We've had one of these already. I have to tell you, I thought it was a spectacular meeting. This is something that we're going to continue to do after the transition is over with, because this is going to help be the foundation of this key partnership between student life and the academic sector. At this first meeting, we had a really great brainstorming session that I'll talk about in a minute, but a lot of the things we'll talk about today came out of that meeting, those discussions. This group is going to continue to work on getting updates from the transition project team, reacting to that, advising the transition process. Very important, identifying issues that come up from you, okay, and other issues that people see as we do this big reorganization. And critically, keeping the flow of information open across all of the people involved here. So here's a timeline. This is focused on the first phase. By May, we expect to have the staffing reorganization completed. We expect to have the new folks in these new positions filled. Budget by June. Foundation accounts are a whole nother animal, and we'll have that. We hope to have that cleaned up by May. Space decisions by April. Administration support by April. Tech support decisions pretty quickly by March. And overall communications throughout. Okay, and ongoing. We're also, at the same time, taking a real good look at the registrar's office. As many of you know, Monty has announced his retirement. We are taking the opportunity to look at the processes and functions within the registrar's office. We're using the same consultant that we worked with for strategic enrollment management to provide advising in the registrar. So some of you may have already been interviewed with them and talked with them about our registrar's function. So that's a very important part of this, is looking over all of our registrar operations. Okay, we announced the search committees on February 20th. These positions will actually post early in March. We'll then have a search across the positions that I already described. We're going to be forming a registrar search committee in March with that position to post in April. Okay, so that's one that I hadn't mentioned, but we'll need to hire a new registrar. I don't know what the magic touch is. I haven't found it yet. Oh, did I? I probably just, okay. So at this first joint meeting of the Student Life Provost Staff Leadership, we organized the discussion. And as I said, it was a freewheeling, really strong discussion around these two questions. So the first, as you think about the strategic enrollment management restructuring and planning for the transition, what are the most urgent questions and concerns on your mind? Second, what are the top issues, concerns, or questions that you're hearing from your staff? Okay, so that was the gist of that meeting. We want to now talk with you about some of what we heard at this meeting, and then open it up for a full discussion with you on these same sorts of topics. Okay, so to organize the brainstorming that we did in the leadership group, I'm going to present a series of themes of what came up there. Okay, and these are things that I hope will also help organize our own discussion today. So as you see these themes and you have questions or thoughts in these areas, get ready to ask those questions, because we'll be getting there in just a minute. Okay, So first, the questions or concerns about the overall structure. Why? Why are we making these changes at the university? That's a very fundamental and important question. So I'll tell you, the primary reason for these changes is because we believe that it will position us better to serve students, to position the university better going forward, because it creates a cleaner distinction between the academic side and the student life side. It also has the benefit of being much closer to the way most other universities organize themselves. So in terms of how we position ourselves to recruit new people into these positions, they understand this organizational structure. It works better, and I think will actually be a much stronger foundation for the partnership that we need between student life and the academic side, to have this clean distinction between academic student success, student life, student success, working together to promote what we all expect out of the university. Jobs. Will you have jobs? Yes. Okay. There's no part of this that is about cutting staff or anything like that. This is a shuffling, a reorganization in a way that we think is going to put us in a better position going forward. We all have to work hard together to make this work, right? This is a big shift, as I've said about 50 times already. So, we need to all be working together to make this a very positive restructuring. This is a really important question that we spend a lot of time talking about, the working relationships. So whenever you take some folks that have worked together with their colleagues in one part of the university and move them into a different part of the reporting structure, here moving from student life into the provost area, those colleagues and their colleagues in student life are concerned about whether they'll still have those strong working relationships. So yes, although the burden of maintaining those relationships is on us. It's on us to continue to have the communication, the joint meetings of leadership groups. It's on these colleagues to continue to work together. I think it's going to put us in a great position to have this partnership I'm talking about, because we have people now who will be leaders on both sides, both in the academic side and in student life, who were once very close colleagues within student life. They should continue to be close colleagues, maintaining that strong partnership. Okay, so I think in a way because of the history of how Kansas State has organized these functions in the past, with this reorganization, we're going to be in a better position perhaps than other universities that have always had things divided the way that we're moving towards. Okay, because we'll have those strong partnerships to build upon. Okay. Did I go too far? Did I finish this? Okay, funding. So how are we going to unravel the budget lines? Well, it's a big job. We will. We're working through it all. Will we get it all right immediately? No. Okay, it's a complex task, and it's going to take us probably beyond the first phase to get all of the funding disentangled and figured out, especially when you take into account all the different flavors of money that occur within a budget. You've got GU funding, you've got foundation funding, you have fee funding, you have lots of different sources of money and lots of ways in which that money is spent to support the operations. So it's going to take time. We're going to continue to work, and we're going to need your help as we continue to work through getting a clean and fair split of the budgeting here. Communications. How will decisions and changes be communicated? Well, we're going to have a series of these. We're going to have 2 more open forums. The leadership team is going to continue to meet on a monthly basis for bringing both groups of leaders together. The planning team that Emily and Lynn are leading will continue to be a key part of holding this together. We've created a new website that was just launched today that you can continue to refer to, where we will eventually have FAQs, we'll have responses to the questions that are coming in. We're also, as I'm going to talk about in a minute, we're setting up, have already set up an email that you can send your ideas and thoughts to, so that we can respond to those. Will your work continue to be valued? Absolutely. I hope that you hear me that I value this partnership very, very very, very highly between student life and the academic sector. This is where the rubber hits the road at a university. It's the work that is done between student life and student success support on the academic side that really promotes the opportunities that we give to our students. So it's centrally important. You are all valued through this. Help, what can you do to help? How can you provide your thoughts, comments, suggestions? So we'll address that a bit in a second, but absolutely, we want your input. Okay, so let's open this up a little bit more and start talking together about this. And I want to seed our conversation with these two questions, which are related to the themes that we were just going through. Okay, two key questions that came up across several of those themes were: how do we maintain the unique values, the unique community and service orientation that we have at K-State? Okay, we're losing a champion of that, although we're twisting Pat's arm to continue to stay involved. But we're losing one of the key champions on our campus for this. So how do we keep? I mean, the short answer to how, and from me, the short answer to how do we keep our values is assembled in this room. It's you. You are the people that have these values. So as we work forward to promote student success, it's just continuing to live the values that we have always lived at K-State. But I want to get your thoughts about that. And then the second sort of prompt for our conversation is: how can we maintain service to students at a high level? Pat started off by talking about the success that we've had in student success, how well we're doing. We're hitting all-time highs in the key metrics of student success. That's something to be incredibly proud of. How do we make sure that we continue that upward momentum in supporting student success? And then any other questions, concerns that you may have. Okay, so I want to open it up now. And we have a microphone. And this is for both of us.
I think it's very important to hear the Provost's voice. This is orchestrated so that you hear him, get a feel for his values and how he sees the future of our school. It's critically important that we asked him to take charge of these 4 or 5 points. To take the edge off a little bit, as Jody's getting ready to ask the first question, we've always had a cooperative relationship with the academic side of the house. This is going to be nothing new for the men and women in this room. Emily Lenning and Greg Eislein championed the revolutionary program with CAT communities. That was a joint venture from Student Life and Academic Affairs many years ago. We had tremendous success. I think that's driven our commitment to retention. When you think about the honors program, we passed the honors program on to the provost. We passed undergraduate research on. That was a pilot's program. We passed that on to the academic side. Leadership studies was a program within Student Life that you championed. We passed that on to the academic side of the house. So many of you in this room, the core values are that we've had this cooperative spirit. This opportunity gives us a chance to maybe reduce the silos and put us in a position where we're cutting edge even more, and where we maybe don't have as many channels to go through to get things done as we like. So the other part is, in terms of the funding, I'm mea culpa, mea maximum culpa. I have borrowed from Peter to pay Paul, to pay Gene, to Juan. I've gone all over the place. So as we untangle my commitment to fundraising, auxiliaries, student government funding, all kinds of student government funding, our ability to take GU dollars and restricted dollars to make things happen and keep things going during 6 budget cuts. And by the way, they weren't enrollment driven. Those budget cuts primarily were cuts we received from the legislature. So I'm going to be guilty of keeping things at a high quality and borrowing around. So that's part of what we have to shake the trees and find out. We're going to need some time to do that. And as the provost mentioned, I've always believed that it wasn't my money and it wasn't your money. It's university money. Money's money. So we got to do is sort it out. and make sure that we respect the fact that we're committed toward getting a job done. So that kind of is some things that come to mind as we visit. First question, comment?
Hi, Jody Kaus, PowerCat Financial. It is one of the programs that has been shared back and forth. It started under the Academic House, and now it's been in Student Life, and now we're going back to the Academic House. And I think I agree that that can be a great thing. There are challenges through those handoffs. Many of them have been just not feeling like I had the ability to help with those decision-making processes, but hopefully those will be part of the new open dialogue that we're going to share. Are there peer institutions that we're looking at as models for this new approach, or that we're saying they are doing some really neat things that we want to look at how we can incorporate that at K-State? Or are we just creating our own new approach, or what do you think?
Yeah, so first, at the level of gross structure, you don't have to look very far to find that almost every university in the country is organized the way we're moving towards. Okay, so at the level of growth structure. But I hear your question as being more about processes and relationships and the things that are more important than the structure, okay? And I think we can learn from what other universities have done and from each other. So there's going to be a lot of open dialogue. And in the second phase, as we're turning the org chart into a strong structure of relationships, okay? At that point, we're going to be wanting to get best practices and lessons from lots of people here at K-State, people at peer institutions. Okay, but yeah, I mean, it's not like we're inventing something new with this organizational structure. Okay, it's actually quite unusual to have a university of our size in which student success and enrollment management are primarily student life issues.
Well, I've got the microphone. I know that there's a lot of people that are watching online right now, and if you want to send in your questions, the email we've set up is kstatesem@ksu.edu, so kstatesem@ksu.edu.
And let me point you back to this first question, because this is something that's really important to all of us. We have a unique university, something that I suspected when I was interviewing, and it's one of the reasons I wanted to come to K-State. But the fact that we have this community here, a community of service and leadership, from students through staff to faculty to administrators, is really special. If you have any concerns about losing that in this restructuring, I want to hear about it, and I want to hear your ideas about how we preserve that, because that is job one. We do not want to lose the character of K-State. The student focus, the focus on success, achievement, opportunity.
Thank you. Provost, can you share with us how units should proceed with changes that they have to make within their unit, plans for the coming year? What's the process that you'd like us to go through?
Well, so right now, as we're making this structure, I think it's important that so you're talking about staffing changes or procedure changes that you need to implement for the coming year. We certainly don't want to put you on hold. We've already approved a number of staff things that have come through. I think what you should do is forward those things to both Pat and me, okay? And in fact, it would be important to copy in Emily and Lynn as well, okay? So when you have things, we will not keep you from doing the things we need for the coming year, right? So we're going to continue to let you move forward. But we do want to, all of us, take a look at it in this transition period.
Hi, I'm Fred Barak, Director of Assessment. What I'm most excited about is this opportunity to find out what's happening across campus, and I think there's a lot of things. We all are doing our jobs at a high level, but the end things, quite often we're doing our job in our area, and there's a lot of information that through sharing that we may be able to recognize that we sometimes can do a little bit of less work because it's already being done in other places. So I'm hopefully with this collaboration, we're going to be looking for ways that we will be working together rather than doing our independent jobs at our own places.
Thank you, Fred. And yeah, I mean, that is absolutely key. And for PowerCat Financial, we got some great ideas about ways we can move forward and strengthen that operation. You know, we're going to collect the ideas that come from you. We're going to bring together best practices from across the university, and we're going to be able to then build on the strengths that exist across the university, but often we don't acknowledge or maybe may not even be aware of what those things are. So you all know lots of things I don't know about the university. So how can we fix that? You have to tell me. And when I say me, it's the collective me. It's us, you know, those of us in leadership. You need to tell us where there are opportunities, where there's something great going on that's kind of a well-kept secret. That's happening all across the university. But this is an opportunity for us to surface all those things and talk about them and find ways to prioritize things and then support them.
Hello, Provost. Carrie Keller from the Career Center. And thank you again for this forum. And I just wanted to comment that, you know, in career services across the country, we see career services on both sides of the house. And it is, I think, as in budget flavors, it's kind of whatever the flavor of the month is.
Yep.
And one of the things I just wanted to note as you're talking about sharing information with you, and this might not be an issue immediately, but I did just want to mention that even though there will be complexity among our division as we make these changes, it gets even more complex when you add in Global Campus, Polytechnic, Olathe. And I know I was just noticing that a new bachelor's degree program is coming to Olathe, and that was kind of a surprise to me. And I was thinking, oh, I wonder how we will deliver career services to an undergraduate program on that campus. So I would just encourage you to have that in mind, as many of us, as those campuses, not Polytechnic, but some of our other Global and Olathe campuses have grown very organically. We've all stretched and done our duty to meet student needs, but we haven't necessarily been resourced for that. So it gets complicated, I think, at times.
Yeah, and thank you, Carrie. And that's so the example you just gave of a new bachelor's program opening on one of our campuses and Career Center not even being aware of it. Those are the kinds of things that we need to think about, how we develop procedures so that that doesn't happen, so that key people across the university, whether it's, I heard about a new program, by the way, that was developed without any consultation with the library. And how do you develop a new academic program and not have the library in discussions about what are the library needs? And that's just one example, but you've got Career Center, library, all across your functions, there are things that are important to be in the conversation as you consider new programs. So we have to build structures that allow us to talk, you know, and share information more openly than I think we currently do.
Hi, Sarah Blankley with undergraduate admissions, and appreciate that. You said a new undergraduate program, and both of us looked at each other like, oh, we didn't know about that either. So you talked about and you showed the chart with the different types of changes and the different paths. And one of them was structure change, staffing changes. Mm-hmm. And am I correct in assuming that those types of things are not going to wait for the enrollment management position to be filled, that those decisions are being made now?
Yes. So the gross movements of offices from this part of the chart to that part of the chart are not waiting for these positions to be filled. Okay? But the second round, phase 2, the finer tuning, that'll occur after the new leadership is in these positions.
And same with space,
yes.
Possible space migration.
And
decisions.
just this, exactly the same. There's going to be sort of gross movement that won't get it all right. Initially, we'll have some problems. You'll let us know what some problems are with decisions we make in this first phase. And then there will be an opportunity for a second phase to correct, tune, make sure that our space needs are properly addressed. So I mean, I want you to hear that we know we're not going to get it right. It would be impossible to do a change of this magnitude and get everything right on the first pass, and that's why it's important to think about it in these two phases of change.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good morning. My name is Kristen Oberheid. I'm the Director of International Admissions. And right now we are underneath International Programs. We'll be moving to the Vice Provost for Enrollment Management. I wondered, regarding the changes that will happen before our new leadership is in place, how will that be communicated to us, and what will the process be? Will there be more communications with our smaller units rather than open forums, or will things be coming down through the transition leadership groups? Could you speak on that process a little bit of conveying information to us? Thank you.
Yes, so we'll convey information typically for units that are moving, the individual units. We'll convey it through your current leaders, through other staff meetings that occur, but we don't currently plan to have an individual open meeting with all of the different units that are affected. I'm just going to be honest with you, there's not enough time in the calendar to do individual meetings like that with every group. So we'll have open forums like this. We will have an opportunity. We will absolutely collect information, and we will communicate to you through your current leaders and directly from us. But how many offices are represented in this room? How would we possibly hold individual meetings with every office? It's really not going to be feasible in this time frame. So we're going to make use of the open forums and the other communication mechanisms that we've talked about. So if you have any concerns or questions, I hope you know I'm approachable. Pat is approachable. Send us your questions and concerns.
And in fairness, you're right, a lot of departments, a lot of people. We've gone through changes before and didn't have any of the kind of dialogue and communications we're having now. So I know these are major changes. We've had changes in the past, and we've not gone through this length. Now with the internet and the web, it's even added more to our communication. So we're attempting to do just as the provost said. Not going to be perfect, and we can't. You mentioned about departments. We've got 34 departments on student life side. We're probably double that when you think about the provost side. So it's pretty extraordinary. So these are vehicles we've not used in the past. Probably should have, but we didn't through changes that we've made. Anybody on the? Hi, Ty. How you doing? Anybody on the?
Any questions online?
Online?
I haven't seen any yet, so if you want to email in your question right now would be a good time to do that.
By the way, we just got word that our BSU came back from the Big 12 BSU conference, number one in the Big 12 again. So hats off to our BSU leadership. The hype video, many of you have seen like 4,000 or 5,000 times. And our communications and marketing people are here. Won the #1 hype video in America. That's another good accolade for many of you in this room that have worked hard to communicate the breadth and scope of our programs.
I'll add, I had a first. I'm experiencing a lot of firsts, a long succession of firsts. But I had my first Wabash Cannonball in Kansas City on Friday. Pat was there. It was great to see him. What a spectacular party. There were almost 1,000 alums in that room. Wow. I haven't experienced that at any previous university where there's that kind of engagement with the alumni community and there's 4 of them. 1,000 of them showed up for this Kansas City event. It's amazing. It really speaks to the work, the foundation that you've laid in terms of the relationships with these students who then become engaged alumni.
Lena Chakrabarti, English Language Program. I know that international admissions is moving into a different unit. How is this going to reflect on international students? How will this help international student recruitment, retention? I've always, whenever I go to a committee, I always talk about the special needs of international students.
Yes.
Will there be more focus on that, or how will that happen?
Well, first of all, though the reporting structures changed, the same people continue to serve international student admissions, just under a different reporting structure. I think it's pretty clear that by collecting people together who are doing admissions of various different types, there's going to be more support for international admissions. It's going to be easier to support international admissions from a collected group of admissions officials rather than from an office that is separate. Okay? Now, I think what your question is an important one about whether we continue to provide the special service that international students need. And that's going to be, again, that's one of those things that's on us. It's not on me as an individual, as a leader. It's on us to get it right when we make this organizational shift. International students are critical to the success of Kansas State University. We're a Research One university. We have a strong profile internationally. I've spoken with a number of folks many times about how we can enhance that profile and lead to greater numbers of international students. But it's going to be a big focus for us. International students, transfer students, global students, as well as our traditional domestic undergraduate population. Add all that together with the graduate population and non-traditional students, and we have to sort of hit the nose on all of those areas to move us forward as a university. I think this new structure positions us to be able to do that better rather than having lots of separate offices scattered around that are doing those things in isolation.
Got a question over here.
Provost, when you think about the 4 searches, 4 searches?
4 plus registrar would be
5 searches that are happening this spring. It's clear how they've come about with the structure, but what's the opportunity, do you think, that we have in the search process? Because we're trying to attract 5 new leaders to this campus, or into these new positions at least. What's the opportunity that we have in thinking about how we participate in the searches?
Oh, that's a great question, Mary. So when we think about the first of these points, how do we maintain our values, there's sort of a transmission and selection process that's critical in this. We've got to get the right people, whether they're from inside or outside. We've got to select the right people. And in the interview process, we have to signal very, very clearly to the applicants, to the candidates, what kind of a university we are. That's a big step towards preserving our values, okay? Because we want to make sure we don't get people who are not consistent with the values that we have. So how can you be part of that? I mean, you're a key part of this. So please participate in some of you are on search committees, but if you're not on a search committee, participate in the search process. These folks are going to come in and we're going to have meetings with appropriate people. You're going to be involved in these meetings. There's going to be open meetings where you'll have a chance to talk with these candidates. Come to those, raise questions and let people know what Kansas State University is about. Okay, that was critical when I was recruited here less than a year ago. Okay, and when I was being recruited, those meetings I had with people from across the university were a huge part of my decision to come here. Okay, so please participate in that. Let the candidates know how engaged we are and how committed we are to success, to student success, and to having the kind of community we have at K-State.
We're competing against 400 middle school. Madai is over there now. How do I be over there, her in that group? We don't pay Madai enough money, do we, Emily?
I might just have more of a statement. I'm the newbie here. He's leaving me after hiring me. No, he told me that. But prior, I was 10 years at another college setting in our state. Not the bad one. But I think it's kind of across the board. One of the things for number one to stay to our core values is remember why we're here. Keeping our students first has kind of always been our slogan. And so just keep that in mind as we go through this.
Thank
who
you.
we're here for. And that's kind of what you just said with the student success. So.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
Thanks for having this gathering today and giving us a chance to ask questions. When you talk about, when we consider the student life division and how those budget then parts will be pulled into the provost office, and just organizing that whole budgetary process is going to be a huge undertaking, right? Well, in addition to that, we're now looking at a new budget structure. So
I'm aware.
So I think a lot of us would be curious to know how, as we write all the budget within the new reorganization, then how that folds in to a whole new budget structure.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. We have several big moving parts of this university, and actually each one of them involves many moving parts. It's like we're, making changes to two of the big machines at the university simultaneously, and they're connected to each other. Okay, so how do we do that? Again, we're going to really work hard to get it right, and we've got, I think, the right people together. When you look at that list of folks that are planning the transition, some of those people are people who are deeply involved in the budget process as well. So we made sure that we have people like Mandy and Lynn, Emily. These are all people who are involved in the budget process as well as strategic enrollment. That was intentional for the exact reason you're mentioning, Heather. So these folks are using their massive brains to figure out how to manage both of these big changes of the machines. Okay, will we get it all right? No. Okay, but we will get it close, and we'll have opportunity to get it better going forward. So I think that's a really important. I thank you for raising that, because the change in the budget is off over here that is so important to everything we're doing in the restructuring as well. Yeah.
So how do we support those big brains? Because this is a whole lot. And so I'm wondering what it is that we in our units can do to be supportive of the transition team, other than, I would imagine, patience and grace.
Yeah.
But is there something else? Is there anything that we can do to help that small but mighty team?
Yes, so we really want to hear your ideas, okay, and I might as well flip forward if I can. You can see at the bottom of this the email, and just above it a web page that's being set up for the purpose of communication, okay. But you can send ideas and thoughts, suggestions, concerns. Don't be shy, okay. Raise whatever you're thinking to this website, and we'll respond. But I really like the way Mary put it. I mean, trust us that we are all trying to get this as right as we can. Okay, that's all we care about here, is to get it as close to right in the first phase as we can. Be patient. Okay, these massive brains are working really long hours. Okay, so please have a little grace, as Mary put it. And if you have concerns, or you think we're making a mistake, don't hesitate to let us know, but please understand that the people you're communicating are working 16-hour days trying to make this work. Okay, so have that patience and grace, but raise your concerns. Okay, do you see what I'm saying? Please let us hear from you.
And I would also say right back at you in terms of the time and effort each one of you putting in right now. We've asked an awful lot of each and every one of you. You all have more than full-time jobs. I think of the impact just this weekend alone, Saturday and Sunday, what you've done for us. So we appreciate the fact that we have 5 searches. We're asking for your input. Things have not stopped. There's a great machine that you've created, and we're asking to continue, keep all the balls in the air, do more with less, and also help us with the transition. That's the K-State way, gang, and that's just what you buy into when you wear purple and you think about the values of our school. And right now, the next few weeks, we're asking for something extraordinary on top of everything else you're doing. And we're going to come out of this bigger and better than ever before. I genuinely believe that.
Thank you. And I just want to thank you also for the work that you're putting in on this. And when we were sitting down, Pat and me and the president and some other folks sitting around thinking about the timing for this and how we would do it, and how we would do all the searches that were necessary, one of the questions I raised was, burnout, and are we worried about our capacity to do all these things at the same time? And Pat and Lynn said right away, it's a lot, but we can handle it. So that reassured me that we as a university have the commitment to be able to get through this semester of really great change and tremendous amount of work and long hours and so on. I really do think it's positioning us to be even more effective going forward. Well, if we have no other questions right now, then we're going to end a little bit early. But please also see, yes, on this slide we're going to have more forums, one in April, one in June. Okay, so please come to those. Encourage your colleagues to come, and don't hesitate to send us, in a spirit of kindness and patience, your suggestions. Thanks. Bye-bye.